Heartwarming discovery. Millionaire exposes hidden pain in daughter's room. It changes everything. Brian Matthews stood in the doorway of his daughter's once vibrant room, the walls now painted with silence. As the sun streamed through the sheer curtains, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air, his chest tightened. This was the space where laughter once echoed. For 18 years, it held the essence of Emily, a whirlwind of energy, hopes, and dreams. Now, in the stillness, it felt like a tomb of memories. His heart ached with every item he touched, awakening both pride and a deep regret. With his hands shaking slightly, he sifted through the remnants of Emily's teenage years. The bright posters of her favorite bands, the half-finished painting canvases that spoke of undiscovered talent, and the myriad of books stacked haphazardly across the floor. Then, amidst the chaos of colors and memories, he discovered a stack of letters tied together with a delicate ribbon, faded and worn. Each envelope bore Emily's handwriting, the sweeping loops and swirls that he had once admired. Curiosity replaced his apprehension as he carefully untied the bundle. The first letter was dated nearly 2 years ago. "Dear Dad," it began. With each word, the rawness of her emotions poured out. Thoughts of anxiety that clung to her like a shadow, confessions of feeling small amongst towering expectations, the weight of which he had unknowingly placed on her. Brian felt his heart drop. His busy schedule, his relentless chase for success, had wrapped his daughter in layers of unspoken worries he never saw. In this affluent neighborhood where everyone celebrated triumph, vulnerability felt like a crime. Brian's mind whirled with guilt. Did the lavish lifestyle he had curated for Emily drown out the simple conversations that might have revealed her pain? Every neighborhood barbecue, every trophy showcased in their home, had they produced smiles or mere facades? The silence around mental health loomed heavy, stifling any chance of connection. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Brian's resolve solidified. He needed to bridge this chasm. Organizing a family gathering felt like the perfect gesture, a way to reconnect. The perfect family event would heal. He poured his heart into the planning. But when the day arrived, a simple miscommunication spiraled into chaos. Emily arrived late, frustrated. The laughter and chatter of guests only deepened the chill between them, and Brian felt the betrayal in her eyes, a mirror of his own hidden shame. As the distance grew, a tidal wave of unspoken words crashed between them. Brian's heart ached at the thought of their rift, torn between the image he had cultivated and the candid truth of their lives. He stood at a crucial crossroads. The upcoming community event focused on mental health awareness, an invitation he initially received without a second thought. Now, standing in Emily's room, those letters burned in his mind like an ember. Could he share their family's journey, or would honesty shatter the facade he clung to? As the weight of his decision pressed down, Brian inhaled deeply. Would this moment be the key to pulling them back together, or would it push Emily even further away? The air around him buzzed with anxiety and hope. Would truth finally uncover their buried pain, paving the way for healing? Brian stood frozen in Emily's room, the letters still cradled in his hands. The sun shifted through the windows, casting a warm glow that felt at odds with the cold reality he faced. He could sense the tension in the air, the weight of unspoken truths pulling at him. Should he risk everything by being honest? What if opening up only made things worse? An argument with Emily at the family event echoed in his mind, the hurt lacing every word exchanged. The way she stormed out, eyes ablaze with frustration, left him reeling, aching to reach her but unsure how. He dropped the letters onto her desk, a decision forming in his heart, a decision fueled by both fear and a desperate hope for reconciliation. Maybe if I share my own struggles she'll understand, he murmured to himself. It felt daunting, like standing on a precipice, teetering on the edge of everything he had built. But if his daughter felt small amidst their family's success, perhaps hearing about his own vulnerabilities could provide her with some comfort. Brian pulled out his phone, scrolling through the event details. Tonight, I'll do it," he whispered, determination igniting his spirit. He had no idea how Emily would respond. Would she embrace his honesty, or would it plunge them deeper into the chasm of misunderstanding? That evening, the community center buzzed with a cautious excitement. Friends and neighbors mingled in bright, cheerful light, unaware of the turmoil hiding beneath the surface. Brian felt the knot in his stomach tighten as he glanced around, searching for Emily. When he finally spotted her, seated in a corner, distant and withdrawn, his heart sank. She fiddled with her phone, seemingly disconnected from the world around her. As the event began, speaker after speaker shared stories of their battles with anxiety, depression, and the stigma surrounding mental health. Each confession echoed against the walls, filling the space with raw honesty. Brian listened, his heart racing. This was what he needed. This was the moment he had been waiting for. When it was his turn, he stood at the front. The microphone felt heavy in his hand. A lump formed in his throat as he began. "I'm Brian Matthews, and I've spent most of my life chasing success, thinking it would protect my family." His voice trembled slightly, and a hush fell over the crowd. "But I realize now that in my pursuit, I lost touch with what truly mattered, the emotional connection with my daughter." He caught a glimpse of Emily's face, her eyes wide, surprise etched across her features. He took a breath, the words pouring out like a dam breaking. "I failed to see her struggles. I've seen her pain, and it scares me because I place so much pressure on her to succeed." The audience hung on every word, their eyes shifting between him and Emily. And then he did it. He shared her letters, revealing the unfiltered emotions that Emily poured into her writings. As he recounted her anxieties, the room filled with its own empathy, the kind that reminded Brian they were not alone. With each line he read, he caught the flicker of hope in Emily's eyes, mingling with disbelief. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally starting to see him as he truly was, a flawed father trying to understand his daughter's pain. When he finished, the room erupted in applause, but all he could focus on was Emily's expression. A tentative smile crept onto her face, but the fear still lingered. Would this honesty bring them together or tear them apart for good? He stepped down from the stage, nerves prickling, hoping to embrace the moment as she approached him. With her hesitation palpable, he opened his arms, ready to receive whatever came next. The air around them shimmered with potential transformation. Would they find healing in this shared vulnerability? As their paths converged in the midst of uncertainty, Brian felt an undeniable shift, a feeling like a chapter turning. Would this be the turning point they both so desperately needed to reach each other? As Emily took those hesitant steps toward him, a storm of emotions broke across her face. Shock, confusion, then something softer, perhaps hope? Brian's heart raced as he instinctively closed the gap, wrapping his arms around her. "Dad," she whispered, her voice small and uncertain. The warmth of her body against his felt like a lifeline. Brian felt tears prick at his eyes. He squeezed her tighter, hoping to communicate everything he had missed in their years apart. "I'm sorry, Em," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away. I just wanted you to have a better life. I thought if you had everything I know," she interrupted, pulling back to meet his gaze. "But I didn't need things. I needed you to see me." The honesty in her eyes cut straight through him. The applause from the audience began to fade, leaving the two of them in their little bubble of newfound understanding. The sounds around them became a dull background noise, blending into a gentle murmur. Brian leaned in, encouraging her to keep talking. "Reading those letters, it was like you finally recognized that I'm not just your daughter. I'm me. I've always been struggling to keep up, Dad." She took a shaky breath. "And I didn't know how to ask for help." Brian felt a heavy weight lift from his chest. "I'm here now, Emily. I want you to know it's okay to struggle. It doesn't make you weak." He searched her face, hoping to see the certainty of his words sink in. You really mean that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Absolutely. He nodded, feeling the warmth of conviction pouring from him. You don't have to be perfect for me to love you. I just want to be there for you. We can figure things out together. A slow smile spread across her face, lighting up her features. I think I'd like that. The tension that had wrapped them in silence began to unfold, tentative but real. They shared a moment rich in possibility, the kind that felt seismic after years of drifting apart. Behind them, the sound of more stories being shared rose and fell, fading back into the forefront. But Brian only had ears for Emily. What if we started by trying to talk more? Maybe I can help you with school, but in a way that feels lighter? Yes. Emily's enthusiasm was infectious. I love that. I just didn't want to let you down. Brian shook his head vehemently. You could never let me down. I've let you down by being so distant. But I promise I'll show up for you now. As the event wrapped up, people began to filter out, laughter and chatter filling the air. Brian noticed the change in himself, an ease that hadn't been there before. He stole a glance at Emily, who appeared relieved, grounded and sure. Let us grab some ice cream? He suggested, and her face erupted into a wide grin. We can talk about anything you want. Actually, can we talk about everything? She replied, a twinkle in her eye. Everything it is, he chuckled softly. As they walked out, side by side, a new chapter was beginning to unfold. The connection was fragile, like a freshly sprouted flower, but it was there, and they'd both be careful to nurture it. Yet deep inside, as joy swelled in Brian's heart, a thought lingered at the edge of his mind. What if this was just the tip of an iceberg revealing deeper struggles? Would opening this door lead to more profound revelations? And as the two of them stepped into the evening sun, Brian couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of uncovering something much bigger than either of them had expected. The ice cream shop was filled with laughter and chatter, colors bright and cheerful. Emily's smile never faded as they stepped inside, her excitement palpable. She bounced slightly on her heels, choosing a bright blue raspberry sorbet that seemed to match her newfound energy. Brian, on the other hand, opted for a classic vanilla, simple and comforting. As they settled onto a small bench outside, the sun casting a warm glow, their ice cream melting slightly in the heat, Emily took a moment to look at her dad. This feels nice, she said, licking her cone. I missed you. Missed you too, Em. Brian's heart swelled. So what do you want to talk about first? I know there's a lot on your mind. Well, for starter school, she began, her eyebrows knitting together. It's not just the grades that stress me out. It's everything. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a competition with my classmates. Everyone's so much smarter and more accomplished. Brian frowned, stirring the melting ice cream with his spoon. You don't need to compete with anyone but yourself. It's about your journey, not theirs. She sighed, frustration clear in her eyes. But you always said I could do anything if I put my mind to it. I thought you expected me to be the best. I did, he admitted slowly. But I see now that I put too much pressure on you. I thought pushing you to succeed would make you happy. I didn't realize it was hurting you. Emily bit her lip, her face straining with an emotion he couldn't quite decipher. It is kind of lonely, you know? I feel like I'm always trying to live up to something, like a shadow that never quite catches up to the light. Pang hit Brian in his chest. Oh, Emily, I wish I could take that pain away. He reached over, placing a comforting hand on her arm. You are already enough just the way you are. She looked down for a moment, scraping her spoon against the bowl. But what if it's too late to change? What if I keep letting you down? It's never too late, he assured her, feeling a swell of hope. We can navigate this together. Just take one step at a time, and I promise to be there along the way. A faint smile snuck back onto her face. You know, sometimes I wonder how you were ever able to come back. It feels like dim stars can't suddenly become bright again. I guess it takes courage to face the dark, he said softly. And sometimes, it just takes a little love. Emily nodded, her eyes serious. I like that idea. But can I ask you something? Anything, he replied, his heart racing at the earnestness in her voice. Why didn't you talk to me before? Like really talk, Dad? Was it just about work? A rush of guilt swept over Brian. It was easier to focus on my job instead of seeing how lost I was. I didn't think you wanted me around. I guess I thought distance was what was best for you. Tears welled in her eyes, and Brian felt a powerful urge to hold her close again. I was scared too. Scared of losing you. But we can change that, right? Yes, she whispered, wiping her eyes. As they finished their ice cream, a comfortable silence settled between them, filled with unspoken promises. But the emotional weight of their conversation crushed some of that lightness, leaving Brian with a lingering apprehension. Deep down, he felt that this was just the beginning of many hard conversations. Secrets and shadows still lurked, ready to emerge. Would they be able to face those together too? Stepping out of the shop, they glanced around at the busy street. It felt lighter, the weight of secrets making way for hope. Yet Brian couldn't shake the feeling that deeper issues waited just under the surface. What truths had Emily been hiding? The thought made his stomach knot. As they walked, exchanging stories and laughter, Brian realized this journey was far from over. They had taken a few steps forward, but would they truly be able to conquer the shadows together? And at that moment, amidst the brightness of the evening, Brian considered what lay ahead. The sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon with strokes of orange and pink. Side by side, Emily and Brian strolled down the street, the remnants of their ice cream cones barely clinging to the sticks. It felt lighter outside, and laughter floated around them like music. But a heaviness remained in Brian's heart. He kept glancing sideways at Emily. She was navigating their conversation as if she were treading on fragile ice. Do you think we should talk about other stuff? Emily asked, breaking the sweet silence that had formed. Sure, he responded, trying to steady his voice. What's weighing on you? She hesitated, biting her lip as if swallowing thoughts. It's not just school, it's everything, she finally said, her gaze shifting to the sidewalk. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going through just regular teenage stuff. Like, if I could wish for something, it would be to feel normal. Brian's heart sank. What do you mean by normal? She took a deep breath, looking up at him. Like I belong. Everyone else seems to fit in just fine. But me? It's like I'm always on the outside looking in. I worry that I'm different and that it's a bad thing. Sweetheart, being different isn't bad. It's what makes you, he replied, willing to bridge the gap. But it feels lonely. Like, when everyone else is chatting about their favorite shows or the parties they're going to. I don't know what to say. Brian felt a pang in his chest. Have you talked to anyone about this? Friends? A teacher? Emily shook her head. No, I don't want them to think I'm weird. But you're not weird. You're special, he said firmly, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. Maybe sharing how you feel would help. You might be surprised at how many people feel the same way. Yeah, maybe, but it's hard to open up. She paused again, her expression shifting from discomfort to curiosity. What about you? I feel like we've talked a lot about me, but what are you scared of? The spotlight turned. Brian hesitated, caught off guard by her insight. I guess I'm scared of messing up again. I did that before and it hurt both of us. But you're here. You came back, she reminded him. Isn't that a big deal? It is, he admitted, leaning against a lamppost. But I worry about making promises I can't keep. And I didn't want to fail you a second time. I don't need perfection. I just need you, she said quietly. The words struck him deep. He wanted to hold her tight, to shield her from all the worries that life threw at her. I'll try my best to be here for you, to be open. But I want you to do the same. Emily's eyes lit up. Okay. Deal? Deal. They exchanged smiles, an understanding passing between them that felt warming against the backdrop of the chilly evening air. Suddenly, Emily stopped walking, her attitude shifting. Can I show you something? Sure. Brian followed her as she led the way back toward their home. As they entered, he felt the familiar scent of the house warm and inviting. But as Emily rushed up the stairs, a sense of foreboding washed over him. What was she about to unveil? He followed her cautiously, a mix of curiosity and concern brewing inside him. When they reached her room, She opened the door and stepped in, her heart racing. "This is where I hold everything I don't say," Emily said, motioning for him to step in. Brian held back for a moment. The atmosphere felt charged, filled with secrets and stories yearning to be told. "What do you mean?" As she turned to face him, a spark of determination flickered in her eyes. "You have to promise me you'll listen without judgment. Okay? I want you to know me, the real me." He took a breath, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Promise." And just like that, with the door slightly ajar, Brian understood they were about to embark on the kind of conversation that could change everything. Emily's heart pounded as she closed the door behind Brian. The small room was dimly lit, the walls adorned with posters of bands and quotes scribbled on colorful papers. This space felt like a universe all its own, a cocoon where she hid her thoughts and fears. "Okay," she started, her voice a tremor in the silence. Just give me a second." She walked over to her desk, covered with stacks of notebooks and half-written poems. Each one told a story that never found its voice outside these four walls. Brian watched her with gentle eyes, giving her the space she needed. When she finally turned back to him, she held a notebook close to her chest. This is where I write," she confessed. "Everything I can't say out loud." Brian moved closer, intrigued. He had always known Emily was creative, but this felt like another side of her that he had never seen. Can I see?" he asked softly. Emily bit her lip but nodded. She approached her desk, opening the notebook to a random page. The handwriting sprawled across the lines. Some verses were melancholy. Others were filled with vivid imagery and emotion. Each word seemed to pulsate with unexpressed feelings. He leaned in, reading snippets. "This is beautiful, Em." She shrugged, a wave of vulnerability washing over her. "It's just thoughts. A jumbled mess, mostly. I mean, how can I say all this to people out there?" Brian felt a knot in his throat. "You can start with me. I'm right here." She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Okay, look." She flipped to another entry and read aloud, her voice shaky. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm in a glass box surrounded by people, but nobody really sees me. It's like I'm screaming, and no one knows." Tears welled in her eyes, and Brian stepped closer, sensing her pain. "I see you, Em. Promise." Her gaze snapped to him, wide with surprise. "You really do?" "Yeah." His sincerity cut through the heaviness. "You're not alone. None of you should be hidden away." Emily wiped a tear that escaped down her cheek. "I want to believe that. It's hard." "I know," he murmured, "but we can face it together. Just like we talked about." The weight of his words sunk in. She nodded slowly, feeling a flicker of hope. "I've just been so scared of what people might think, of not being accepted. That's why we're doing this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be you," Brian said, reaching out to squeeze her shoulder. Feeling emboldened, Emily pulled out another sheet filled with her dreams and wishes. "This one is about what I want to do after school. Things I want to try, places I want to go," she said, glancing up. "But I've never shown it to anyone because what if it all falls apart?" Brian sat at the edge of her bed, leaning forward. "Then we build it up again. It's not about perfection, remember? It's about trying." She bit back a smile, appreciating the warmth of his encouragement. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple, but it's not easy. Maybe we can make it easier together." "That's the plan," he said softly, their eyes locking. As they exchanged hopeful smiles, a thunderous sound echoed through the house, a sharp knock at the front door, making both jump. "Who could that be?" Brian murmured, the moment of connection between them lingering in the air. Emily frowned, glancing back at the door, uncertainty creeping back in. "I'm not sure." Brian stood up. "Let us check it out." Together, they moved toward the door, a buzz of curiosity and apprehension building within them. What awaited them on the other side? With each step, Emily felt the weight of sharing herself, knowing it was just the beginning. Maybe she wasn't alone in her struggles after all, but what they found when they opened that door could change everything once again. As Emily and Brian reached for the doorknob, the tension in the air seemed to thicken. Emily's hand trembled slightly, a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. The loud knock echoed again, more insistent. Brian met her gaze, his expression both reassuring and curious. "Ready?" he asked, his voice steady. She nodded, swallowing hard. Together, they pulled the door open, revealing a tall figure clad in a dark coat, raindrops glistening on his shoulders. It was Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, who Emily knew only from passing waves outside. But there was something different about the way he stood at their threshold. His face etched with concern. "Is everything all right?" Mr. Thompson asked, peering intently into the dim room. "I heard noises, thought I should check in." There was a moment of silence, the three of them standing awkwardly in the doorway. Emily's heart sank, thinking of their private moment interrupted. But something in Mr. Thompson's eyes spoke of deeper worry. "Yeah, where she started," unsure how to explain the emotional whirlwind inside her. Brian stepped forward, taking the lead. "We're fine, just talking," he said, his voice firm but friendly. Emily was grateful for how he took charge, allowing her a moment to catch her breath. Mr. Thompson shifted his weight, still holding their gaze. "That's good to hear. I just wanted to make sure no one needed help. A lot of kids around here are struggling right now. It's been a tough time for everyone." He shifted his focus back onto Emily. "I remember being your age. Went through some dark times myself." His vulnerability surprised her. He was the last person she expected to see at her door, letting his guard down. "I thank you," Emily stammered. Deep down, she had always seen adults as untouchable, perfect figures with no room for doubt. Hearing Mr. Thompson's admission felt like a softening of the wall she had built around herself. "Just know," he continued, "if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm a call away." He hesitated, then pulled out a small card from his pocket and handed it to her. "This is my number. No pressure, but don't hesitate." Emily took the card with shaking hands, feeling a warmth inside. Understanding this was an unexpected lifeline. "Thanks," she murmured, meeting his kind eyes. As he stepped back, Brian closed the door gently. Their previous moment now altered but somehow expanded. Emily glanced back toward her notebooks, feeling the bubbling thoughts drift closer to the surface. "That was surprising," Brian said, breaking the silence. She could hear the undercurrent of admiration in his voice. "Yeah," Emily replied, her heart still racing. "I didn't expect that. It's strange to think adults have their own battles too. Everyone does. You're not alone in this," he reminded her softly, his presence a grounding force. The notebook lay open on her desk, pages waiting to be filled with words. Her heart was finally ready to speak. "You know, this might be a good time to read those dreams," Brian encouraged, tilting his head toward the desk. The earlier confidence had returned, and it sparked something inside her. "Maybe," Emily agreed, her voice gaining strength. She picked up the sheet filled with her aspirations, a gentle determination settling in her chest. With Brian beside her, there seemed to be newly ignited hope, like the promise of dawn breaking over a horizon. But then, just as she began to read, another knock echoed through the silence. This one was different, harder, urgent. Emily's heart dropped once more. "Should we answer?" she asked, uncertainty weaving back in. "Maybe it's just a mistaken house, or maybe it's something more," Brian replied, his brow furrowing as he contemplated the mystery. Dread mixed with anticipation settled like a weight between them. Could it be another surprise or yet another disruption? What lay behind that door, she wondered, and what would be uncovered next? Emily's breath hitched as another knock echoed through the air, sharper this time, slicing through the lingering warmth Mr. Thompson's visit had brought. She glanced at Brian, whose expression had tightened. "Let us find out," he finally said, steeling himself before gripping the doorknob again. As they opened the door, a chill swept over them, and there stood a young girl, no older than Emily, drenched and shivering from the cold rain. Her wide, frightened eyes darted between Brian and Emily's heart ached at the sight of her trembling hands gripping the frayed edges of her worn-out jacket. "Help," the girl whispered, her voice barely audible. "Please, hey. It's okay," Emily said softly, stepping forward. "You're safe here. What's wrong?" The girl hesitated, her gaze flickering with uncertainty. I'm lost. I can't find my way home, she whimpered, her voice cracking slightly under the weight of fear. Brian quickly moved aside, gesturing for the girl to step inside. Come in, it's warm. We'll help you. The girl shuffled in, water pooling at her feet as she took in the small, dimly lit room. Emily pushed the door shut, blocking out the cold, wet world that felt so far away. What's your name? Emily asked, trying to create a sense of calm. I'm Lily, she replied, wrapping her arms around herself as if trying to hold in the chill. Well, Lily, I'm Emily and this is Brian. Emily knelt down to meet her eye level, the warmth of compassion radiating in her own chest. How did you get lost? Lily's expression shifted, and tears brimmed in her eyes. I was walking home from my friend's house. I took a shortcut through the park, but there were some older kids, and I got scared. I ran and I think I went the wrong way. Brian stepped closer, concern etching deeper lines on his forehead. What park? Do you know where you were headed? I don't know, Lily sniffed, her voice catching as she fought against the tears. I just wanted to be home. Emily felt a familiar pang in her heart, an echo of her own fears. Those nights spent grappling with the darkness that surrounded her. It's okay, Lily. We're gonna figure this out together, she promised, her resolve building. Do you have a phone? We can try to call someone for you, Brian suggested, looking back toward Emily to gauge her thoughts. Lily shook her head, wringing her hands in distress. I just have my old flip phone. It doesn't work well. Emily shared a glance with Brian, sensing their shared understanding of how lost this girl felt, alone in an expansive world. That's all right, Emily encouraged. You can use our phone, and you can stay here until we find someone. You won't be alone. As Lily nodded, seemingly comforted by their words, something within Emily sparked. She recalled how Mr. Thompson had offered her a friendly ear, and suddenly, it seemed like it was her moment to do the same. With Brian at her side, they led Lily to the couch, draping a blanket over her shoulders. The warmth of that simple gesture seemed to ease the girl's shivers. You're safe now, Emily reassured her, her voice steady. But deep down, Emily's heart was racing. The echoes of her own struggles clashed with the urgency of helping another. She thought of the dreams she had almost shared moments ago, and wondered how her path now intertwined with this girl's desperate plea. Let us make a plan, Brian said, taking charge again, his voice low and charged with determination. Someone must be looking for you. Soon. Lily's quiet sobs softened into stillness. Yet the atmosphere was thick with tension. Emily glanced at Brian, urging him to take action. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on their shoulders. But as she sat beside Lily, something heavy still lingered in the air. How would the resolution of this night change everything about them? What other truths lay hidden in the shadows of their own stories, waiting to emerge? The darkness outside wrapped around their house like a shroud. Emily wondered, could this unexpected encounter shift the course of her own healing? As she sank deeper into thought, the phone began to ring, breaking the stillness, and she felt a jolt of hope mixed with fear. Who was on the other end? And what truth awaited them? Emily's heart pounded as she reached for the phone. The sound echoed in the stillness like a warning bell. She felt Brian's eyes on her, a quiet mix of hope and apprehension swirling in the air between them. Hello? She answered, steadying her breath. Emily. It was Miss Turner, the school counselor. Her voice was laced with urgency. I've been trying to reach you. There's been a report about a missing girl from your school. Her name is Lily. The room spun around Emily. She exchanged an anxious glance with Brian, who leaned closer, straining to hear. Yes, it's her, she said, her voice trembling slightly as the reality of their situation sank in. She's here with us. She was lost and scared. Relief poured from Ms. Turner's end, but the crackle of static seemed to dampen it. I'm so glad you were there for her. Can you keep her safe until we send someone over? I'll be there as soon as I can. Emily agreed, her mind racing. We'll do everything we can. As she hung up, she looked at Lily curled up on the couch, the weight of the moment pressing down on them all. "Lily, someone is on their way to find you," Emily said, her heart swelling with compassion. "You're not alone anymore." But as Lily looked up, those wide, frightened eyes told another story, one of uncertainty, and perhaps confusion. "Will they be mad at me for getting lost?" she asked, tears spilling down her cheeks once more. "No," Brian interjected, his voice firm yet gentle. "They'll be happy you're safe. Everyone gets lost sometimes. But you're brave for asking for help." Emily nodded, wishing she had the right words to soothe Lily's fear. "Took courage to find us. You showed that, and it matters a lot." Lily nodded slowly, wiping her face with the edge of the blanket. But Emily could see that the fear lingered, lurking just beneath the surface. "I don't want to go back," Lily whispered suddenly, her voice quivering. "What if they think I'm dumb for taking a shortcut?" Emily felt a pang in her chest. In that moment, she saw so much of herself in Lily, once lost in her worries and insecurities. "Listen," she said, her voice softening. "No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. The important part is what we learn from them." Lily's gaze held onto Emily's, searching for the truth in her words. There was vulnerability, but there was strength, too, a hint of hope. Just then, the front door creaked open, and Brian instinctively stepped in front of Emily and Lily, protective and alert. Miss Turner entered, her presence instantly lightening the room. "Lily," she called softly, her voice warm and reassuring. "I'm so glad you're safe. I've been worried sick about you." Lily jumped up from the couch, running into Miss Turner's open arms. The older woman enveloped her in a hug, and Emily felt her own heart swell at the sight of the reunion. Even amidst their own struggles, she could see how love could weave through the cracks of fear and doubt. But just as quickly as relief washed over them, uncertainty bloomed again in Emily's mind. What would it mean for her and Brian, for their lives moving forward, now that they had met Lily? As Miss Turner reassured Lily, Emily caught Brian's eye, and something unspoken passed between them. The journey they had just stepped into felt profound, filled with unanswered questions about joy and healing. "Are you okay?" Brian asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, as Lily hugged Miss Turner tightly. Emily didn't have an answer. Not yet, anyway. But she knew one thing for certain. They had opened their hearts tonight, and perhaps, just perhaps, they might find what they had been looking for, too. As the three of them gathered around, the flickering light overhead illuminated their faces, and Emily could almost feel the warmth of new beginnings sweeping through, mingling with the shadows of the past. But as the door softly shut behind Miss Turner, Emily's gaze fell to the floor, where a small red scarf lay forgotten. She picked it up, feeling its texture brush against her fingers, and wondered who it belonged to. What secrets would it reveal? And would that change everything they thought they knew? With the door closing softly behind Miss Turner, Emily stood frozen, the scarf draped across her hand like a new destiny waiting to be uncovered. Brian watched her, eyes filled with warmth and curiosity, as if he sensed the weight of what lay ahead. "That scarf," Emily murmured, turning it over in her fingers. "I think it's Lily's." "Looks like it," Brian said softly. "Maybe it's a sign that she'll always carry this moment with her. A reminder she's not alone." "Yeah," Emily breathed, a mix of emotions swirling in her chest. She tucked the scarf into her pocket, as if holding onto a piece of the hope they had sparked. It's like this is the beginning of something new. The bond forged during that unexpected visit pulled them closer together. Brian took a tentative step toward her, his gaze now piercing with acknowledgement of their shared truth, the vulnerable connections that had blossomed through the storm. "I know it feels scary, but you're not just walking into something new for Lily. You're stepping into your own journey," he encouraged, his tone earnest. "You can help others while learning how to heal yourself." Emily felt the swell of warmth spreading through her heart. "You think so?" "Absolutely," he affirmed, leaning in slightly. "Look at how brave you've been tonight. You opened up. You listened. You didn't run away when things got hard." The encouragement radiated through her, igniting a spark of courage she hadn't known she possessed. "I guess I am ready to face my battles," as well as help others face theirs. With a newfound resolve, Emily approached Lily and Miss Turner, who were still immersed in gentle reassurances. I think I could help one of my classmates who feels just as lost as Lily, Emily suggested, her eyes lighting up with possibility. They turned to look at her, curiosity unfolding. Lily's eyes shone with hope. Really? You would want to help? Definitely, Emily smiled, her heart thrumming with excitement. Nobody should feel like they have to face their struggles alone. We can check in on each other, support each other. That's how we all grow. A deep sense of understanding rippled through the room, stitching a visible thread of solidarity among them. Miss Turner nodded appreciatively, her gaze filled with warmth. That's incredible, Emily. Your willingness to be open, to share this journey, is a wonderful gift. You're both brave. Just remember, it's okay to lean on one another. With tears glistening in Lily's eyes, she said, "Thank you." Brian stepped closer, placing a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. "And it's okay for you to lean on us too, Em. We'll navigate this together." Each word seemed like an anchor, holding down the emotional tide that threatened to rise within her. Emily realized this was not just about helping Lily anymore. It was about embracing her own teetering steps into a more honest life. "I don't want to be the girl stuck in her own shadow anymore," Emily said, her voice laced with determination. "I want to be someone who makes a difference." That's the spirit. Brian cheered, pride swelling in his heart. Lily smiled, her young face brightening. "Let us be friends." "I could use some," she said, her voice stronger now. "Of course," Emily replied, melancholy dissipating like darkness before dawn. The atmosphere felt charged, and they stood together, their hands connected in a circle of friendship, commitment, and newfound understanding. In that moment, the shadows they battled Emily, Brian, and Lily began to lighten against the hopeful horizon ahead. As laughter bubbled up in the room, one thing became clear. They were ready to face not just their own fears, but the world together. The connection they forged in the storm had blossomed into something beautiful, powerful, and lasting. But just as Emily felt the sweet release of hope washing over her, one final thought pulled at her mind: there would always be more challenges, more struggles waiting to emerge. Yet with Brian by her side and the ache of vulnerability transforming into strength, she felt ready to meet whatever lay ahead. "Together," she whispered, firmly, "we can do this together." As the room filled with laughter and light, the future unfolded before them like a vibrant tapestry woven of dreams and possibilities. And with that, they began to step unflinchingly into the new chapter of their lives, hand in hand, ready to seize the extraordinary journey that awaited them. Now, let us keep this momentum and spread the word. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Also, comment below your thoughts and feel your reactions moving through the story. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of embracing this journey together.